This leads us to our final question, which is, what small actions can an individual take to support men's mental health?
So I would end it off by saying, I think we really need to normalize and make it an everyday thing to kind of get mental health assessments and visit a psychologist if you can. If I didn't go see a doctor at the University of Saskatchewan and get assessed for different mental health, I would have been living my whole life with like permanent post-traumatic stress disorder without ever knowing it, and just thinking that like I'm different and naturally don't like people and naturally don't like situations, but it's actually just trauma that makes me be a certain way. But at the same time, like, I think it's important to never stay a victim when you do find out these things about yourself, because like it's human to feel sorry for yourself, but at the end of the day, like sooner or later, I think you have to make good steel and you have to accept what has happened and see what you can do with it in the future. And when I use the interpretation of making good steel, I don't want people to think that in order to be strong, you have to be something along those lines. Because to me, I think the strongest people that I know are the people that are the most kind, regardless of whatever they've been through, and they don't hold it against the world or other people. And to me, strength is kindness, no matter and showing kindness, no matter what you've been through or what happened to you. And so yeah, go and get assessed, y'all, and good luck.
Yeah, so today we touched a lot on like what you can do if you're the individual speaking to someone, but I kind of wanted to like briefly speak in a way like if I were to be supported by someone, how I would want them to, react to me. I think like the number one thing is don't be a dick, and really what you're feeling shouldn't be put down. And when someone's listening to you, it's your job just to listen, as men, masculine, trying to problem solve. That doesn't work for anyone. Like, I'm sorry if I'm calling you up here, Andre, but if Andre's struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, then you would want to be like supported, right? Rather than have someone be like, this is how we can fix you, or like, this is how you should deal with your issues. Right. And really, if you take anything away from this panel, I want it to be that, we're men second and humans first. Humans feel emotions. Humans aren't weak or broken because they feel things, and we all hurt sometimes. So you're not different, weird, or a burden. You're human, and you're safe here.
Very well said again. For me, I think there's two things we need to do. First off, we all just need to do a better job of acknowledging that this is a real problem. It's kind of touching back to one of my first answers. It's easy to see the person with the broken bone or the sling on their arm. It's you can't see mental health. You can't look at somebody. They could have all the money, all the this and that. Nothing tells you how somebody's doing on the inside, and so just acknowledging that this is a problem. Like people deal with things that we have no idea about, and so acknowledging that things are going on is the first step, and then the second one is acting on it. I'm not going to pretend that I do the best job of this. I'll go on Twitter and repost the Bell Mental Health Days and stuff, but I don't do enough to actually interact with people, and that's something that I've really appreciated with my new career here in pharmacy. Is I actually get an opportunity now to people come up to the counter and they're started on a new antidepressant or new anti-anxiety medication or ADHD, whatever it might be, and I can now actually act on these things that I've learned are important, and I can ask questions and try to be a sounding board for people. And it's as much as they might not want to talk to me. Again, as a pharmacist, I'm not nearly as educated as many of these other people here today, and in general on mental health and support and stuff. But if I can even just be a sounding board for somebody for 5 minutes who maybe needs to sit in the counseling room and get something off their chest, and then refer them off to the help they need, that's what it's about. And you don't have to be a professional by any means to do that. I think we've talked about how you just need to listen. And so reaching out to somebody, checking in on your friends, this is all the cliche thing, but not enough people actually do it. And so to actually text your friend, or just you see somebody and things don't seem right, even if things do seem right, just checking in. How are things going? And you don't want to dive too deep, obviously, like you said. Like you want to listen, and some people aren't maybe ready to talk, but don't, I guess, just ask, hey, how you doing, and then leave it be. Maybe ask a couple questions, try to get a sense, and then come back in a week or two, and at least that person will know. They may not be ready to talk the first time, but eventually they go, yeah, this person's tried a couple times, and they'll be more willing. So like I said, acknowledge that what's going on is affecting everybody, and then we actually have to start acting on it, because unfortunately too many people do it very superficially. So
just to add on to that, I think 9 times out of 10, if you're to talk to someone or message them on social media or something, they will answer, you know what I mean? And it can be as simple as reaching out, truly reaching out. I know a lot of people kind of touched on before, see a lot of reposts of stuff, it's Mental Health Month, or it's Bell Let's Talk Day. But it's one thing to repost that, it's another to be damn, I should really check in on some people that I think need to be checked in on, or I can do that, One of my best friends to this day is a guy that he went to my high school, added him on Facebook in grade 9. I didn't really know him. This was the first year that Bell did the Let's Talk days, and he posted something on Facebook that was I've been through a lot of shit, and it was kind of about the Bell Let's Talk day, and I realized it wasn't a compliment fishing thing. It wasn't he was trying to get attention. This dude was really, really going through some shit, and I started talking to him. He's one of my best friends now. I talk to him every day. You know what I mean? Great guy. Who knows what would have happened if I didn't talk? If I didn't reach out, if I didn't just take that initiative. It's so easy to just send a hey through Instagram, or how you doing? It's 3 words, 10 seconds, I think kind of to add into that, if you're in a friend group that belittles you a lot, or kind of to touch on my personal experiences, I was in a group that made fun of me a lot for my shit. If they're if it's past jokes, you know what I mean? I get teasing. I'm a pretty chill guy. But if it's you've already told them to stop, told them to cut them out, and they keep going, go meet some new people. You know what I mean? It is possible that you don't have good influences in your life. It's a good thing to meet other people, diversify your friend group, do things like that. Lack of self-confidence can also be quite harmful in that sense. This is just something that I'm just gonna kind of throw out to a pen. I can remember almost every single time a girl's been you look good today, because I was yo, I was let's go. You know what I mean? A simple compliment goes so far sometimes. It doesn't even have to be anything big, but a little confidence booster goes a very long way to some people that maybe don't feel okay with themselves at the moment. Stigmas around social norms don't help, and everyone carries different kinds of baggage, and it's this is one of the times that it's never safe to assume. You know what I mean? You shouldn't assume what other people are going through, because people go through so much stuff, and at the end of the day, I really think like guys should have at least one friend that they can like vent to, that they can like really talk to, and it's like not a sign of weakness. It's normal. We're humans. You're gonna feel a lot of different emotions and highs and lows through your life, and that's just how it is. That's what being the human experience is. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on that. Thank you.
What should I get you guys to do? Really, I'm gonna give you a really easy one. I'm just gonna, just like myself, I practice every day and encourage every day that no matter what it means, no matter what gender you are, age, etc. I see a lot of diversity in the crowd. I like it. Why not just be more sincere to yourself, to your relationships? You know, understand what your boundaries are, what you're comfortable with. Understand what your friends' boundaries are, what your connections and family's boundaries are, and what they're comfortable with. Take a look at your relationship with them, and think about times when maybe we didn't talk about something that we should have, opened up, being vulnerable when we shouldn't have. Maybe that impacted them that time. Maybe mutual understanding will bring a lot of strength into those relationships and encourage more vulnerability, openness of mental health. And that's across the board, like I said, gender, age, etc. But just to encourage yourself to be a little more sincere, open, If it's your comfort level, if it's your boundary to be open, to be out and about, and to leave that at home, that's okay. But if it's causing your space to feel disrupted, to make you feel uncomfortable, open up, tell people why. What happened today? What am I experiencing today? And then on the other side, if you see a friend or someone that you haven't had a conversation like that, and you have noticed or be mindful of some behaviors that are up and down, irrational, different, just ask them. Invite that, It can go a long ways, and it can not only for safety and well-being and self-care, but also for relationships and friendships and the people that we have in our life and that we care about. So.
Thanks, Ed. So yeah, there's a narrative ask, right? So this almost 2 hours of sitting here, I'm moving around. I move around lots. I see other people moving around. We're moving around because we're getting uncomfortable, right? And then we're seeking comfort. So asking is important, and that's the narrative I hear the most. Ask. People will answer, right? The next step, though, what small action can we take? Well, get ready to be uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, the reaction should not be to move into comfortability. Because then I'm just soothing myself. It'll get better. Ask someone. That's fantastic. So part of it is if I'm not ready to be comfortable or uncomfortable, who can I resource to? What can I say? Do I have the boundaries and the wherewithal to say that? If someone comes to me and they went through a giant breakup or bullying or rejection, whatever it is, and I say, you know what? Don't worry, because when you get older, you'll find your people, or you'll meet someone and you'll fall in love, and all the bullshit that people feed, right? And it's true. We may, and I know that because I've done it. But if someone comes to me with that and it's their first time going through it, how do they know? If it's their first time ever going through it, how do they know? So if I try to comfort them, I'm only doing it because I know it will get better. And then why did I even go to school for this long and figure it out? When at the end of the day, if I'm going to ask, which is the easy part, I got to be ready to be uncomfortable. And that's where that education piece falls in their own. So it no longer becomes a small action. It becomes more of a daily thing to be okay with the uncomfortability and not turn away from it, right? It's no longer a hashtag, it's an action. And that's where I would leave it with.
Thank you very much. This concludes our panel, but I would like to open up the floor to the audience members if anybody has any questions. Yes, front row.
I just want to thank the panel members first of all. You guys are an inspiration for a lot of people, especially men my age. I'm 18. My question is, So I'll give a little context to my question actually, first of all. I had a pretty rough childhood, I'd say, lots of trauma. And as Andre, when Andre gave his experience, I also struggled with lots of homophobia and internalized toxic masculinity. Turns out I'm bisexual, so again, it bit me in the back. I guess I also went through like the whole pipeline of toxic masculinity online back in the day. Thankfully, I'm out of that. I guess my question is just, how can people my age not go through what I went through? And how can I help people my age? Because one of my biggest goals is to be like you guys. Be giving talks and inspiring others.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for being vulnerable within it. Would anybody like to, Andre?
Thank you very much for sharing. And honestly, I think step one would be to, I think one of the guys said it over here, but like being really honest with yourself. And it's scary, but trying not to be afraid with what you find out, like in that honesty and that kind of truth. But at the end of the day, when you've been through so much as a kid, like it doesn't matter what happens in the world anyway. So screw them and whatever they have to think or say. And that's how I've always felt. I've never really gave people the benefit to have any sense of power over me, because the way I think about it is like I didn't go through that shit as a kid like for nothing, right? And I want to like be my true authentic self today, and that's how I try to stay every single day. And so I honestly, man, if you haven't already, like try to visit like a psychologist or something like that. It doesn't mean like you need to get assessed for something, but just have someone to talk to. And I think eventually, hopefully your confidence can build if you have this goal to go out and speak at different places. Like I have no doubt in my mind that you won't be able to do that. Like I think it's something very real that you could do even like sooner than you think. And it just starts with you and where your confidence is at, and seeking the different opportunities that are out there, because there's a lot of schools that need young men like you to share your story.
Okay, first of all, I'm like really glad that you were vulnerable enough to share that with all of us. But in asking for help, I wanted to ask Evan or Ryan if you guys would be open to like quickly going over some of the help people can get on campus, like Student Wellness Center, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I guess I will. So, we both will. Team effort. So, we're at the Student Wellness Center. As long as you're enrolled in any type of class load, you do pay into the benefits and are eligible for 10 sessions a year, give or take. We're pretty flexible when we can be, but sometimes we can't be. But you can email student.wellness@usask.ca, or a phone number that I don't have right now.
5757.
Oh, 5757
966.
966
Right?
5757. And book appointment. Talk to a reception. They'll direct you to intake, which will connect you with many different services. And to, of course, go to your question. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. You're being here as a participant, a member. You, and I don't doubt everyone else. I hope we'll leave and maybe challenge some of the things that cause distress in your life in regards to men's mental health, gendered mental health, and to take that and just be mindful of it every day and improve your well-being in your life and your confidence in yourself of being open and vulnerable. There's also some really good resources. Like I said, it's something that I've been reading quite a bit about. For the Love of Men by Liz Plank was something that really got me interested. She has a lot of interesting information. Really nice, easygoing read too. You can read it on the bus. You can read it on the monkey bars. I don't know. But anyways, you can read it. and what's his name? Justin Baldini and Liz Plank. They do a podcast. So if you're I know you guys and gals and people have a lot of reading intensiveness. If you want to pop on a podcast when you're going somewhere to check hers out too as well. And I'll get Ryan to talk a little bit about student affairs and outreach.
Yeah, sure. So I'm with Student Affairs and Outreach, and basically, like I said, I have 2 roles with them. Counselor in Residence, which is a role specific for people who live in student housing here. But Student Affairs and Outreach is a service that's available for students who are kind of going through any type of situation that would be acute or need to be triaged. So, a lot of times in the work that I do and the more clinical side will be that mental health side of things, but there could also be help when it comes to, financial, housing, marks, conflict, whatever it may be. We can be there and work inside of it, being kind of like that utility knife type of service. And again, I'd like to look at all through those lenses. When people talk about mental health, we have to, number one, look at what the ecology is. If someone says that, hey, I'm having a lot of stress and anxiety, I can't say, oh, it's just school. Well, if it's school, it's finances, it's relationship, it's all these things. We can't fix one. We can't say mental health and then have physical health over here like they're 2 separate beings. It doesn't make sense, right? Let's talk about injuries. I know, we have athletes up here. When we're suffering injuries and we're out, and I've been out on injuries, I'm sure all you have, it's brutal. You start to feel really down. You can't go do the thing that you like, and then you react that way. So, those are what we can be there for. But again, in terms of your question, you're already doing it. You know what I mean? It may not feel like it. You know what I mean? I had no idea I'd be talking up here someday. Like, I got diagnosed ADHD and started seeing professional help here at the U of S when I was 18 years ago.
I guess, sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
I guess a good way to start, advocating is just being vulnerable, as all of you have said. So I'm diagnosed with bipolar type 2, ADHD, and OCD. And the reason I'm saying this, obviously I'm not trying to gain brownie points or whatever. It's just I want to lower the stigma, and I want people to be more open and just be real.
Yeah. Absolutely, and awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that. And that's the thing. I think that's the narrative today. Be real, and in the journey, ask the right questions, build the right boundaries, and find the right people. That's kind of part of it, right? Any other questions? Oh yeah, Dave. Yeah.
Just to address the second part of your question, we talked a lot about what you can do, but in terms of helping other people, what I have learned is that you don't need any designation or anything. When I was in so I grew up St. Albert's just outside Edmonton, and we had a French immersion school I went to, and we had a whole school of 7 to 12, which I've now learned is like grade 7 to 12, I guess, which I've learned is not common at all here. Your guys' schooling system doesn't make sense to me, but that's okay. So in grade 10, I joined a Little Buddy, Big Buddy program, and essentially I did that all through grade 10, 11, and 12. And literally all I would do is myself and some other high schoolers would go and be with grade 7, 8, 9s at lunch or after school or whatever it was. And I still barely know what I'm doing kind of thing. And at that time, I definitely had no idea about mental health or this or that. And I was just going there. I to be honest, again, this is where society needs to change. But a lot of my good friends were like, well, why are you doing that? Like, you're wasting your time. It's not fun. Like, let's go play football or recess or this or that. But just going there and being with people that's more than the majority of people are doing. And so don't think that you need to know a lot or have a lot of research or this or that. Just go out and do something. And I think that's a great place to start to help other people.
Wow, the whole panel here. Be proud of who you are. It's the one thing I'd always say to people. Yeah. Don't hide anything. Don't it's just that just won't help you in the long run. You know what I mean? If you find the need to change who you are, that's no longer who you are, right? Be proud of who you are, where you're at, where you came from, what you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing. It sounds very simple. It sounds very baseline, but that's how I like to carry myself. I've been through a bunch of dumb stuff, but I'm very happy with who I am, and I'm very like good where I'm at, and I always remember that, like, kind of like as other people have touched on, like things that have happened in your past, they've happened, but they're no longer happening. You know what I mean? Everything is temporary in that sense. Pain that you're going through is temporary in that sense. If you get to a place where you're happy, keep it. Yeah? If you like where you're at, you're already on your way, you know? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
We have a 28-year-old son who's had a lot of difficulties, especially this past 2 years. And he's on a better path, and he's moved home, and we're working it out. And we're very, very, very close. And I just learned this not very long ago, but we were having a heart-to-heart, and I said, well, let's talk, Lucas. Like, let's find out, where some of this might come in. He says, Mom, growing up, you never validated my feelings. And you know what? Like, I was the perfect mother. And I thought, did I do that? And I never heard that from our daughters. We have 2 daughters. So this is my question. Did I subconsciously do that to my son because he was a boy, that I didn't validate his feelings? And is there any research on that? And I was a good mother, and I didn't even know I was doing that. So you don't know what you don't know. So how do mothers get better in validating?
It's a great question. So, number one, we'd never blame parents, right? Like, that's like a big thing I tell people. Like, is it all your parents' fault? 100%. But we don't blame them, right? We were all products of our parents, right? And they do the best they can with the tools they have. My son's going to be talking to somebody someday as well. So, in your question to validate you, and not to try not validate your son, it's his perception of it, right? So are you not validating his feelings, or was he in a position where he didn't know even how to articulate them at that time, right? So that may have been the gap there, is that he now understands that there was a lot of feelings that were never validated, but is it part and parcel that you didn't know because it wasn't spoken? We can only go out the information that I have available, and did he not know how to become vulnerable and share them? Right, which is just as a parent, is just as hurtful, right? Because it's that safe place to land that I brought up earlier. It's not a question that we can pick apart in a short period of time, but it is one that I would encourage anything to come back and say, whatever, how you say it, sorry, I don't know. Like, now, let me know how that is. It's probably not subconscious. It was just the information that you're giving. You're on the go. You're raising kids. Your life's busy. They're coming at you. You're contemplating, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I say, like, raising kids. It's like shooting arrows without targets, and then you realize you missed every target. Or my dad will say that you're not ready to raise kids until they've been out of the house for 10 years because you had time to think about it. It's all reacting, 100%. So. I guarantee you did a great job. And then with children, this isn't my saying. Gavin Mate says this. You're allowed to be angry at your parents or the situation, whatever it is, but you can't be judgmental, because even the parent who's the most abusive, that's the tool they had, and that's the only one they can react on. Hopefully that helps a bit, but again, it's more deeper question.
Well, it's making me feel a little bit better.
Oh, fantastic, good.
And he would have been here today, too. I just wanted to say that. Yeah. He would have been here today, but he had to pick up an extra shift. And I said to him, that's okay, son. I am going for you.
Awesome.
And he says, thank you, Mom.
Awesome.
Did someone else have something? I was just going to respond to that because it's a good timing to bring it up. If you're concerned about someone, of course, reaching them to connection, sounds like quite motivated to even get connected, right? Mm-hmm. So. But for anyone else involved, I just thought it'd be a really quick opportunity to kind of just bring up what maybe someone could expect if they did reach out for help. And so you would, your son, for example, would reach out and talk to like maybe an intake worker. They get to know you pretty well, talk about your story a little bit. You share as much as you're comfortable with them, right? Because you're not going to see them very often or frequently, like once or twice, right? So some things might not come out in therapy. That's your boundaries. That's your choice to choose. But and then you will meet your therapist, and you'll meet and discuss goals in a collaborative way, and meet every 2 to 3 weeks depending on severity, and work through goals and work through your narrative and explore a lot of wonderful things. So that is what to expect from therapy. I know it's really scary. It's scary doing it too. But like when I was helping my friend out or directing him, just like give it a shot, just like anything else. He tried other things, give it a shot, and see if we can figure some things out. But also just to add quickly to, I think Ryan did a really good job, but just something I thought about even when Ryan was talking and you were sharing your story was, we can only do what our environment and what we ourselves have taught ourselves, and you being here has opened your eyes to maybe some of these situations. His vulnerability, maybe an experience provided him that opportunity to be vulnerable to you, or maybe something in your relationship right now made develop that opportunity for him to be vulnerable with you. But remember, there's several different factors. What has your son been taught throughout his years, right? What have you been taught? I like that you said, I know I'm a good mother. Yeah, you are a good mother. But these narratives and these things have been told to us for our entire lives growing up. It's the environment that we grew up and learned in. So it takes a lot of work to challenge those perceptions and narratives of our past. So
they become reactions, right? Like if you're driving and someone swerves at you, you swerve subconsciously for safety. So I react because I react for safety. My anxiety is there to help me, even though it's hurting.
So maybe it's the counselor in me. But you asked, did I miss something? Maybe I would ask you, what has changed in his narrative and your narrative in your relationship to finally make that conversation, make that happen. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions today? Yes.
I'd just like to ask your guys' thoughts on using social media as a resource for mental health. I mean, obviously it can have its benefits, like you guys have talked about, sending that text, it takes no time at all and whatnot, but on the other hand, I find it's limited in a sense by so we talked about masculinity, it's not really how you go, or you can't be open about it, or you don't feel like you can, per se. So I think a lot of people tend to gravitate their online presence toward their interests or what they feel like they can't talk about in that sense. But for me personally, I didn't really feel comfortable with myself until I was able to have an in-person environment that would accept you, because at the end of the day, you're mostly online in your alone time. So maybe you'll feel comfortable then, but when you have to go back out in public, you kind of have the same anxieties or what have you about not being accepted or whatever. So I'm just wondering, what's your thoughts on social media as a resource for mental health? Does it do more good than bad, or what?
I'll give you my personal experience / opinion on certain aspects of stuff here. I think that as far as the normal reposting of stuff goes, you see a lot of stuff that's here's some mental health resources, here's whatever. I personally don't find that sort of use of social media to be useful personally. Just like you said, in my opinion, I would always take a face-to-face over something to do with online or something to do on whatever. It's good to have I think, in my opinion, having a community that you can talk to is such a different story than just seeing someone post a blanket post for their for their audience and their followers and stuff like that. Because you can actually talk to people. It's not just someone here's what I'm thinking, in that sense. I definitely know people, and I was in spots where I was man, I'm not okay at the moment. And I never once did I, personally, this, again, take what I say for a grain of salt, and I'll hand it to the other people, and I'm sure they can give you a much more informed talk. But I never found online sources useful. In my opinion, always like meet. Like some people just like meeting in person more. That's the kind of guy I am. I'm a more immediate person. I'd much rather like phone call or FaceTime than text. Number one, you know what I mean? If I want to get information across, it's just much easier to understand those emotions, those feelings when you can see them face to face. Having a community around you in person gets a lot across, in my opinion. That's kind of like my thought on that. Like if you have the option to like meet face to face, that's like your golden rule.
And I see what you're saying with that too, because like a text message won't convey tone or body language.
Not at all, right?
The showing of actual listening and what have you. So like
And texting can put across certain like it can either put across like nuances that you didn't necessarily intend, or it can like you can end up texting someone like good night and you put a period and they think they're mad at you. You know what I mean? You're like, what did I do? And the same goes for like heavy talks, like with social media and like through like texting, whatever. If you're texting like paragraph long things, phone them. Please phone them. That'll get your message across. They'll hear your tone. They'll understand it better. If you can FaceTime, probably even better. In my opinion, I really am for like the embetterment of like men's mental health, and I don't think that like blanket posts on Instagram or Twitter is like the way to go. Personally, like real, like if you feel like you're not in a comfortable spot, like personally reach out. You know what I mean? To like whether to be like to like people who are like guided or like your friends. That'll always convey the truest form of what you're saying, in my opinion. Which is why I don't think you should beat around the bush by like texting or whatever. That's just me personally. It saved my ass a lot of times to just call someone and have like a 30-minute cry call instead of like texting someone over 2 hours, you know? It can just be long, it can be messy. That's my opinion on that. Anyone got anything?
Oh yeah, I can take a quick
Yeah.
To me, it's whatever works best for the person, right? For sure. But I agree with you. I'm old school. Like there was no like when I was growing up, if I was going through a difficult time in high school, like grade whatever it was, even grade 12, I couldn't call anybody, couldn't text them. It wasn't a thing. If I were to call, if I couldn't call for 10:30, their parents would be pissed. Like you just can't. So you learn how to sit there, and that's something that's kind of gone. Sometimes the scariest place for people is to be alone with your own thoughts. So we can go on our phone, we can turn a show on, we can stream, we can kind of do whatever. But learning how to do that is important. And again, finding those right people. If that's someone's introduction to mental health, fine. That's great. But then, like you said, finding the right people and building those connections, that's really huge. And learning how to be okay with yourself and whatever that flavor is. There's no judgment there, right? So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it is like whatever works best.
100%.
Personally,
100%.
Like I'd rather see.
Yeah, I agree too. I always wanted to see. Being a therapist over COVID for myself was brutal. Some people liked it, but I just couldn't handle the phone calls or the video chats.
Thanks for the question. Just I feel like it was summarized really well. I just thought since we're on the topic of social media, I have been talking about like challenging our narratives, being mindful of our narratives, etc. So thank you for bringing that up. I think I was probably going to bring it up. Maybe no, I wasn't. We're almost done here. I wasn't. But yeah, if you are on Instagram and things, one thing I did learn is like when you follow things and then it figures out what you want, and then sometimes we get unhealthy, very toxic narratives into our feed without our permission. So if you start to follow like maybe well-known people who are advocating for men's mental health, feminism, etc., then for some reason you go on your explore page and it's like how to be a manly man, how to get women to like you, etc., 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 and then you end up having all these toxic things. But then removing those from your feed, and making sure that you take away that unsolicited negativity, right? So
I was just going to say the report button, I've used it a couple times. It literally has a thing that says, I don't like this. Like there's no, it's not like there's obviously like harassment and everything, but you can go on a post and literally just put, I don't like this. And the algorithm social media, obviously we could talk about for hours, but yeah, the algorithm is brutal. It shapes people's already views and everything and can just make them much worse. And so I would literally just use, like, for things like that, like they touched on, use the report button, say I don't like this, it removes it and kind of builds on that algorithm. And then I'm with him in that, I don't know how many texts I've sent to my wife or my mom or anybody, and then I get a phone call, and you cannot convey intentions and tone and everything. So it's I think definitely, like they touched on, start with whatever you can have. It's better than nothing, but yeah, I like in person. So
That's a good point. Start with where you're at. If that's your comfort level, if that's you're exposing yourself to being open and vulnerable, if that's all that you're capable of at this time, then it'll really be like microphoned and volume up. So just being mindful of that negativity as well as So thank you.
Yes, just up at the front.
So shout out to all y'all for sharing your story and your struggles. My question is, like, if you have to give like one piece of advice to like all the men out there who are struggling to open up and be vulnerable and to get past that shame cycle, what would that one piece of advice be?
I think we begin to question why.
Yeah.
So if you become contemplative, contemplation is the first part of anything, right? Then the next reason is why. And if you can figure out why, or at least begin to question and feel okay with that, then it's going to lead you into a how, right? And then the how will lead you to a where, and then after that, it'll go forward. So I think really trying to figure that out, and by whatever means that someone does that, or like whether it's journaling or dance, music, whatever it is that their identity is, that biggest piece is exploring the why. Because the contemplation is just the beginning of it, right?
Yeah, I think like positive affirmation to those people too. It's like something that it just goes a long way. Like if someone's like is going through something, and you're like, hey, like if you ever like need to talk about it, like I'm here, you know what I mean, or like whatever. That to me that opens doors, because it's like I never personally, anytime I'm getting into like a conversation like that, I never want to seem like I'm peering into their life. You know what I mean? I don't want to seem like I'm trying to like inject myself into their like situation. If they feel comfortable like kind of like talking to me, or like kind of like venting whatever they got out, like I'm here for it. Being a good active listener, that's really good. But I think like for like those people that like feel like they can't open up as like a friend of that person, like a good thing to do would just to be like be very delicate with like their situation. Just be really nice. Like there's, what I mean, if it's your friend, and then for the person that is like going through that, if like a friend reaches out because they realize that like, hey, like this person's really like holding up a lot of stuff, to just like take it in their own time. I get you can't solve everything in a day. You can't solve everything in an hour. And you just, everyone has like their own limits on stuff. So sometimes you gotta talk to them for like a little longer. sometimes you gotta talk, like sometimes you can vent something out in like 40 seconds and you're like, wow, that felt good, There's no time limit on it. There's no, there's like, you should never set a limit on that. Just be a good friend, be there when they need it. And I think that takes you where you need to go, in my opinion.
And practice it yourself, of course.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And then that comfort and that understanding that, okay, this is safe and this is okay here. So.
Yeah, I definitely like to pair what Ryan was saying earlier. Like, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, taking that first step, I'm sure you guys can agree with me. It is challenging, and it's never going to be easy. But you keep pushing through that uncomfortability, and what it's done for me has really changed my life, and it's not easy. So realize it's going to be uncomfortable. There's really no other way to put it. Like, to be blunt, it's going to be hard.
You volunteered me. Just kidding. No, I remember when I was like 16 years old, I never forgot this one quote, and like, it's so funny because I was a really troubled hood kid, but I remembered this quote from Dr. Seuss, and it was like, for those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Yeah, she got. But yeah, I remembered that quote ever since I was a kid, and I like held it to my heart because I was like, for people who actually, for people who are gonna judge you, like, they don't really matter whatsoever, and those that like actually care are gonna care anyway. So might as well be your truest self, and yeah.
Very well said. Is there any other questions? Yes, back.
I don't exactly know how to word my question. So, in my experience, so I just want to say I'm a transgender man. I transitioned from a woman to a man. And in my experience throughout life is, if I was too feminine, it wasn't just that I was gay, it was that you're not valid. If I was too masculine, now the people who are supposed to be supporting me are telling me that I'm a danger to them, that I'm the oppressor, I'm the problem, and it's like, no matter where I'm at, whether I'm feminine or masculine, someone's there not supporting my identity, and it's just like, what can one do in those situations, and how can one make those like places more supportive when they happen for other people?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
Hello? Okay, cool. Coming from like the artistic scene, from the dance scene, I have a few very good friends of mine who have had like gender reassignment surgeries and have switched genders. I hope that's the right term. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm bad with that. But the one thing that I kind of got from them is like, make sure that your environment is, this is going to sound so baseline, but like, make sure your environment is inclusive to you. As like, kind of like a dance scene, we had like a lot of different people in there, and they were all very like respectful and stuff, and I'm sure some communities are more respectful than others, unfortunately, in that sense. But you are valid, like 100%. You know what I mean? Don't question yourself on that like point. And it's like a hard. I get that, and it's like a hard thing that like when people are telling you kind of how you should be a lot. I understand that part of it. I can't say that I can completely empathize. But I do understand like that side of it, like having people trying to like tell you what you are and what you aren't as like a man. You are 100% what you want to be, and you always got to hold that personally to yourself. Yeah? Always. You gotta, like, this will sound selfish, but always put your own ideals before others. You know what I mean? You gotta love yourself in that sense. And like, if other people are just being assholes, fuck them. You know what I mean? Kick them out. I've done it a lot. Damn, I had so many people that were dicks to me in my life. You know, they were. I had a bunch of people, and I cut them out, and it was nice. Much better now. It's a hard process in that sense, but like, you are good. I don't know if I can convey that in any other way, but like, you are, yeah. And people will love you for who you are, and people will like really respect you for like what you're about. And if like people have problems with like what you've done or like what you're into and stuff, that's their problem. I don't know how to say that any other way. I had so many people in my life just like make fun of me for like doing stuff that I did, and I was like, man, why am I even hanging out with these people? They just constantly belittle me all the time. There is communities out there that are definitely like more supportive if you're not in a community that supports you now. Yeah, and they're close by, and they're like, there's nice people. There's a lot of people that like are ready for that. Yeah, that's kind of like what I have to say. Cause like I know two people like very well that like have gone through like the same struggles as kind of what you've mentioned, and it was a little bit of a battle for them, and I like saw that, and I like it really did like that one really got to me because they were just like we're just trying to validate who they are, and they told me that they found solace in like really putting themselves first. I know that sounds like kind of surface level, but that's kind of my experience on that. Does anyone else have anything to say?
I'll just piggyback real quick on it and just say that I really want to emphasize this point about you have to kind of cut out the dead wood in the sense that like it's not easy, especially if there's certain people in your life that are putting you down or are not on the same page as you, and that's not fun. That's not fun to have friends who in that case really aren't friends, and it's very difficult to try to come to terms with losing a friend who that's not easy by any means, but sometimes in some situations it's best to I guess go through that temporary pain of there's some people who just if they're not going to kind of get on board with how you want to be and the things you want to put forward in your life, you kind of have to go through I guess that short-term pain of some people just they're not meant to be around you, and just have some faith that you will find people who are going to accept who you are, and that you will find people who are going to be true friends to you. You just you might have to go through I guess a little bit of short-term work in order to get that long-term satisfaction.
Thanks for sharing. I think one thing you might have to realize is that this world is very, very ugly to transgender people, and to me anyway, like growing up in a province that doesn't like Indians, I know what it's like to feel other, but I don't know what the extent is of being a transgendered person. I imagine that's an entirely different pain. But what I do know, coming from a background where nobody really accepts who you are as a person, is that you have to find that kind of love for yourself that's going to outweigh all of that negativity that the world might feel about you. And sometimes that can be a really difficult thing to do, but I think it makes a person really brave if you can find that kind of love for yourself and have it be louder than how society might feel about you. And I think that the most important thing is to have friends that are going through the same thing, and to confide in them as much as you can and just shut the rest of the world out. Thanks for sharing that.
I would like to thank everybody for those questions, and thank you for being vulnerable and opening up as well within it. That takes a lot of courage, so thank you so much. I would just like to conclude our panel today. I want to thank the panelists from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your courage, thank you for your vulnerability, and thank you for your authenticity today. You have impacted so many people with just your words, and just being out here and having such an authentic and attentive audience, that was amazing. Thank you very much.
I think the biggest thanks today has to go out to her. She is the one who created this opportunity for all of us to be here and be able to talk about this. So yeah, the biggest thanks goes out to you for sure.
That was really sweet. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who came out here today. So today we're actively overcoming the box aside you guys put men in, and that's something to be proud of. So I hope you take that home with you today and for the rest of your days to come. There's cookie galore right by the door there, so please help yourself, take as many as you want. And there are mustache cookies in the tin just hiding in there, so please check those out. They're pretty cool. Thank you guys.
Thank you.